All right, good to see everybody again. Hope you guys are all doing well. We've got another video for you, so we're just going to go straight into it. Kidding, there's a joke. All right, so why did the picture go to jail? Because it was framed. Oh no, it was framed. Okay, so today we're going to go continue on with our formulas and equations topic. Today in particular, we're looking at two main things. We're looking how to find the value of a variable in a formula. So it's just a fancy way of saying you're solving for an unknown. And then you're also going to be looking at how to make different letters the subject, or what it means to make something the subject, which is a fairly common HSC question that's going to be in common content. So let's take a look at this and have a go at some of these questions. Now, whenever I ask you to find hold on, let me get a good color. Okay, find the value of a variable in a formula, all it's really asking you is to substitute and solve. Okay, that is it. Now, you know how to substitute, you learned how to do that, and you've also learned how to solve. So hopefully this should be a fairly straightforward question. Now, if we take a look at this, let's see what a question could look like. They'll say, find t when v equals 120, u equals 10, a equals 8, and v equals to u plus at. Okay, now the first things first, I'm going to substitute in this equation. So v is 120. I'm going to write that down instead of v. U is going to be 10 plus a is going to be 8. And then we don't know what t is, so I'm going to leave it as t. Now I'm going to stop there and make sure that all of you guys can kind of see where everything's coming from. I just replaced v with 120 because that's what I found there, u with 10 because that's what I found there, and a with 8 because that's what I found there. Okay, so I've given me all the information and I don't yet know t, so t is going to stay as my unknown. Okay, hopefully that kind of makes sense. Now at this point here, it's just going to be a algebra and solving question. So if we take a look at what we've got, I'm trying to solve for that t. The first thing I need to do is get rid of that 10. So I'm going to minus 10 to both sides, minus 10, minus 10. That cancels out. I'm left with 8t on this side and 110 on this side. Now to quickly solve the math here, I'm just going to divide both sides by 8, leaving me with just t on its own. It'll be 110 over 8. That's going to be, oh man, 55 on 4. Okay. Now, whatever it is, you can leave your answer in whichever form you like. Again, I suggest improper fractions. Okay, so that there would be your answer. Hopefully that was fairly straightforward. Hopefully that was okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on. Now, the next thing that you kind of have to learn how to do, which kind of is very, very similar to what we did in the question before. The only difference is in this case here, we're kind of working with numbers, right? We're used to seeing numbers, but here, often we start working with algebraic expressions. So if you take a look here, there's quite a lot of letters going on. Now, the good news is it's all the same stuff. It's just going to look, and maybe it's going to feel a little bit different as well, but it's the same stuff. Now, when we say change the subject is simply the per numeral on its own on one side of the equal sign. So I wrote equal side. Hopefully you know what I mean, but let's take a look here. So in this first equation, x equals a, b plus c, the subject is x. It's all about x. It tells me what x is. I don't know what a is. I don't know what b is. I don't know what c is, but I do know what x is. All right, say for the next one, we've got 2x minus y equals to p. The subject here would be p. It's alone. It's on its own. It tells me exactly what p is. All right, and on the last one, you can kind of see, even though there's all these letters going on, 4y plus z on 7, the subject is still the x. Hopefully you can kind of see what subject means. It just means the pronumeral on its own. Okay, now what you're going to have to learn how to do is make x the subject. In other words, get x by itself. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple examples or a couple different, I guess, formats that you may see this question. And let's work step by step to see if we can get x on its own, or in other words, make x the subject. So the first one, we've got x minus 3 equals to p. What's problematic here is I want to get just that x. So what I need to do is get rid of everything else next to the x. In other words, I need to get rid of that minus 3 by doing the opposite, which is plussing. So now that becomes x equals to p plus 3. And boom, would you look at that? X is now my subject. I've got x on my own and everything else on the other side. Okay, so let's take a look at b. We've got xw equals to z plus 1. Now with xw here, that's x multiply w, right? It's a secret multiply. And again, if I'm trying to make x the subject, I want it on its own. So what I'm going to do is almost the opposite of times w, and the opposite of times w is divide by w. Right, and I do what I do to one side, I do to both. So times w, divide by w, that gives me just a singular x. Now, if I was to divide the other side by w, I could write z plus 1 and then divide it by w. But the best way to write this would be as a fraction, which is just z plus 1 all over, because it's the same thing as divided by w. And have I got x on its own? The answer is yeah, I do. That's it. X is the subject. It's all about x. We're good. We're happy to move on. Okay, now fractions. Remember, fractions aren't freaky. They're just how it is, right? Let's not forget that a fraction is just a fancy way to say division. So if we take, let's make, I think I can fit it. Let's make x the subject here. I've got x up here, and I kind of want to get it on its own. So that's kind of divide by b. So the opposite of divide by b would be to multiply both sides by b. Okay. Now this would cancel out, leaving me with just x on this side. So we're basically almost there. We just have to clean up the right-hand side. So we've got a on c multiplied by b. Technically, that is more than enough, and you would be correct. But the best way to write this would be a b over c, because if I multiply it, b is the same thing as b over 1. And so a times b becomes ab, and then c times 1 just becomes c. And there we go. X is your subject. Bob's your uncle. We're in business. Okay. And last one, make x the subject of y equals mx plus c. If you have, at some point, you're going to get sick of hearing me say this, y equals mx plus c, y equals mx plus c. But let's actually work with it here, because what's the subject right now? It's actually y. So I don't have x as the subject. So I'm going to see if I can swap everything around to the point where I've just got the x on its own. So this may take a couple steps. First things first is I need to deal with this plus c. So the opposite of plus c would be to minus c. So let's minus c to both sides. Now this is the point where you're going to feel weird about it, because normally you'd be calculating things right now. You'd be 7 minus 5 or 10 minus 2. But this time, if it's y minus c, what in the world is y minus c? Good question. I don't know either. So I'm just going to write y minus c. Okay. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Those c's cancel out, and I'm just left with mx. Ooh, that x is a little bit disconnected. Okay. Y equals mx. Now, we've got m and we've got x. It's very similar to this question that we did up here for b. At this point here, we've got m multiplied by x, but I just want x on its own. The subject I want to make it is I want to make it x equals. So in this case here, I'm just going to divide by the thing next to x, which in this case would be m. So I'm going to go divide by m on this side, divide by m on the other side. And just like before, it'll cancel out, leaving me with just the x's on one side. And then I've got y minus c. And remember, divided just means fraction over m. Now, it doesn't matter that the x is on the right-hand side, as long as it's by itself. That's the important thing. Okay, now hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Hopefully that helps you with the exercises, but that'll be it for today. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys another time. Happy mathing and see you later. Bye.